What do you think of Steve Guttenberg?
I don't like him.
You don't like him?
No, I don't. I don't.
Does he take away from his features? He was in a lot of stuff.
I remember everyone said that when he was in Home for the Holidays, everyone was kind of like, "Oh, look at what he's capable of." Like, he's so good. I didn't think he was that good in that. My favorite Police Academy movies are parts 5 and 6, and that's when he checked out.
Wow.
All the ones before that he is in, yeah, not so good. So this one's a little further back. It's not that old. It's older than the last one, but we have so much ahead of us. This is September of 1989, issue number 86. It's so perfect, isn't it, to round out the 80s? More Freddy, more Jason. They knew. Elm Street 5, Friday 8.
Wow, they made 8 of those all within the 80s?
Mm-hmm. Almost one a year. They skipped a couple of years, but it was almost one a year. But even Elm Street started in 84. So that was also kind of almost one a year. They were behind, but still at the same pace.
Which one made the most money, though?
Which one? On Elm Street?
Yeah.
By the time 5 came out, I think it was 4. 4 was Rennie Harlan.
I know. I mean between the two franchises.
Oh, which made the most money?
Yeah.
They were both cash cows. I don't know who was the box office king. Even if I knew, people usually do a tally of which franchise made the most money over the next, and I don't think I even know the answer to that. They were both making lots. They would kind of rise and dip over time, but that's why they would start making one before one came out, because of how much money they made. You can skim through this briefly. Page 10 is Monster Invasion, which is upcoming news about stuff that is coming out soon. Big, long article about Halloween 5. Interview with Donald Pleasance. Here's what Donald says about Part 5. It is much spookier than the previous Halloween films. I suppose it's inevitable as this series has continued, but this one is much bloodier than the others. Would you call Part 5 spookier?
I don't think it's spookier, no.
Would you pick a different word?
Clumsier?
Clumsier?
None of them are scary. I like how artful the first one is.
Artful. Perfect, yeah. Is 3 scary, or is it just gross?
It's fun.
It's fun.
It's wicked fun.
On this Halloween 5 page, there is one tiny little, not even have his own article, just a little picture of Rick Dukeman as Snick. Underneath it says, Oscar winner Robert Short of Beetlejuice fame supplies the makeup effects in Little Monsters, a creature comedy due this month from Vestron. Now, I don't have every issue, but I've combed through what I do have, which is most of them. And that's the only mention of that movie I've ever read. If I'm wrong, somebody tell me, please. I'd love to read a whole Fangoria article about Little Monsters. But that's it. Just a little blurb.
Really? That's it?
That's all I've ever seen.
Is it because it's a kid's movie?
I don't know. Or because it underperformed, but unless I'm missing something.
You know that I've known people who just absolutely hated it.
Yeah.
Like, I've always felt very alone in that.
A lot of people hate things because they read somewhere that a lot of people hate it. You know that's true.
Yeah.
You know that's true. People can't form their own opinions.
No, I know.
That takes a lot of guts. And
I was just
chutzpah.
thinking that about Halloween 3 when we were just talking about Halloween 3. I feel like people don't like Halloween 3 because people unanimously have somehow agreed that because it's called Halloween 3 and supposedly a continuation of the first two movies sans Michael Myers, it automatically sucks.
That was olden times, though. But that changed now. And now the opposite has happened, where most people have agreed that it's really great, and it's okay that it's part of it, and blah, blah, blah. And so people jump on that bandwagon without, again, really expressing how they feel. But every once in a while I'll read somebody say that they don't like Halloween 3, and I'm like, haven't you been on social media in the past 15 years? You're supposed to like it now. Get with the times, man. Shit. Video chopping list. This is all the videos coming out. Although currently available, The Burbs. It's up to Tom Hanks and Bruce Dern to find out if their new neighbors, headed by brother Theodore, are psychotic mass murderers, aliens, or just typical suburbanites in Joe Dante's very dark comedy. I wouldn't call it very dark.
No.
In fact,
it's actually really light.
I was going to say, if somebody asked me, well, what's a light comedy that I could watch? That might be my go-to answer for that. They have to say very dark to sell it to the Fangoria crowd.
Yeah.
Big retrospective on Carnival of Souls. Big-ass interview with Robert Englund on Dream Child. Why did I just hesitate on that? Big-ass interview with Lisa Wilcox on Dream Child. Nightmare 5. I don't know that it has a title yet. Page 40. Jason's Journal. First-person account by Kane Hodder about Friday 8, which is terrible because everything he wrote is on these like little fake pieces of notebook paper in a phony handwriting font. So even with my glasses, I cannot make out what is going on. It is awful, but it makes for great art. You look at the newer issues when they started back up again a year or two ago, and how boring it is. It's fun to look at, not fun to read.
Is new Fangoria writing very bad?
I would say it's as cold as the aesthetic of it. It's more socially aware. The movies are obviously not as bubblegummy. It's a whole different vibe. It's a modern vibe. They are very contemporary. They know what they're doing. It looks like a GQ. That could be a subject for a whole one of these, a newer issue. What a quintessential, I hate that word, but what a quintessential issue to have the mask and the sweater both on the cover. Part 5 and Part 8. Granted, these aren't the strongest suits in either franchise. I watched both of them recently. I don't mind them. I actually kind of like them. I rag on Part 5 a lot. Everybody rags on Part 8 of Friday the 13th. There's another thing, like Halloween 3. Like somebody read somewhere that, he doesn't really take Manhattan in it. There's not a lot of Manhattan in it. It's just him on a ship, or him in Canada, or wherever they shot. So you take that out of it, and what do you got? You got Jason killing some kids who are actually in their mid to late 20s. How is that different from the last 7 movies you just watched? Like, it kind of works in that same vein if you're into that.
Yeah.
And I think there's some cool stuff in it. It's a little sleeker. It looks better than the earlier ones. It's a lot more fun. It's Kane. Kane always kills it. Everyone talks about how Kane is Jason. They love Jason. And they love Kane as Jason. Okay, what are your least favorite Friday the 13th movies? Probably 7, 8, and 9. Okay. Who's Jason again? And I just watched Elm Street 5 again, and I knock it a bunch, but it's good. I like it. Is it confrontationally different than some of the other ones? Yes. Is it not what Wes Craven set out to make a Freddy Krueger movie like? Yes. That's fine. Yesterday doesn't sound like Helter Skelter, but we can sort of agree to have them both together in our little canon of interests, yeah? I could go on and on about Part 5. That's not what I want to go on and on about. I want to go on and on about the elegy. This is, every issue begins with an introduction to the issue. Or to whatever's going on in the world of horror movies, in the world of entertainment, in the world of Fangoria, and just something relevant. They've been doing this all along. This one's written by Anthony Timpone. He was their editor, and he took over from Bob Martin, who was their editor through the 70s and some of the early 80s. But whoever the editor was would generally write this portion. A lot of these, especially throughout the 80s, a little bit in the 90s, but mostly in the 80s, were usually addressing censorship, because that was the deal. That was the thing. That's what was going on. If you've ever read or seen anything about anything, you know that was like a huge part of the 80s, a huge problem in the 80s. So that's what this one is about. In issue 86 in 1989, he went on the Morton Downey Jr. show. Have you ever heard of Morton Downey Jr.? Clearly, he was on in 1989. I didn't watch him then either. I found out about this later. Morton Downey Jr. was a talk show along the lines of, Donahue or Sally Jesse. I'm dating myself here. Like Maury or Jerry Springer. It was like Jerry Springer, except that he himself, Morton Downey Jr., was not like Jerry Springer. He was like the audience or the guests. He was like the guests. He would rile up people. He was the confrontational one. He was the crazy one, to try to get the audience to cheer and boo and hiss and cuss. Jerry Springer was kind of the root of something. It really wasn't. It was Morton Downey Jr. He was, and he actually ended up as kind of himself on a Tales from the Crypt episode, as a talk show host who goes into a haunted house to disprove that it's haunted, and then the haunted house sort of fucks with him and kills him. It's kind of like a Halloween Resurrection thing where they do it live. But anyway, Anthony Timpone went on the Morton Downey Jr. show. Most of you have probably watched Downey's syndicated screaming matches, or more likely caught a minute or two of it before hitting your channel selector. He's tough to stomach, rarely makes a convincing argument, and whips up the audience into a fantastic fervor so that his opponents can't make a point. Now the producers wanted me on. The topic, slasher movies. The pro-splatter side boasted myself, Gore Gazette publisher Rick Sullivan, actor Michael Berryman, and, in quotes, director Dave Juskow, or a dead baby earring.
Why not?
Is it dead?
Yeah.
The baby's dead.
Yeah, well, it's supposed to be just a little baby.
Juskow had no credits or any horror connection and was probably just brought in to embarrass our side as a setup. The anti-splatter brigade included Paige Mellish from Women Against Pornography, Missouri Congressman Doug Harpool, and lawyer John Anastasio, a self-described splatter critic. Downey opened the show dressed in a Freddy Krueger getup. That's how seriously he takes the issue.
Somewhere in this country it's 10 o'clock at night. Do you know what type of movie your child is renting? Do you know what type of knife he's planning to use on you while you sleep?
He then introduced Anastasio, who went into a long, obnoxious diatribe about how horror films are filth and garbage.
They go to see the blood and the gore, they pander to that garbage, and all it does is land up rotting minds and rotting hearts.
But later admitted that he had never watched a splatter movie from beginning to end. Mellish insisted that simulated violence leads to the rape of women, equating gore videos with XXX pornography.
Films, and 2 studies have been done. One was done at the University of UCLA by Dr.
Now get me all the, I don't care about the doctor, get me the UCLA, get me the results of the study.
Okay, this study found that from watching R-rated slasher films, men had an increased aggression and acting out of violence against women. They issued higher noise levels. towards the women.
Later, the congressman called for a bill to enforce the MPAA ratings in video stores. So that would mean what? That kids can't rent R-rated movies. Wasn't that already? Well, Blockbuster enforced that, right?
Yeah.
Because Blockbuster was a Christian company, correct?
I don't know if they're a Christian company, but from when I worked there, I wasn't allowed to rent to anybody under 17 if it was rated R.
I think they.
If I did, I would have been fired immediately.
I thought they were a Christian company. I knew that anytime I wanted to rent an NC-17 movie from Blockbuster, they would have it, but it would be it would be a cut version.
Yes.
It would be an R-rated cut.
Yeah.
Which is incredible that a studio would. Well, I guess it's not that incredible, because video rentals was a huge part of their revenue. So they would spend a little extra money to recut Bad Lieutenant so that you could rent it from Blockbuster. Hollywood Video became the mom and pop store. Mm-hmm. Just like Pepsi is the mom and pop soda. Is that what they're saying? On the pro side, Sullivan wisely noted that every time shows like Downey's run a splatter clip, the scene is always taken out of context and not representative of the entire work.
Share that. Tip it that way. You see it? Really exciting, colorful, graphic, kind of a makeup artist's dream, I guess, this book would be. This is one of the popular magazines.
In one of the few opportunities to express myself without being interrupted, I said parents should count their blessings. If the kids want to curl up with a horror movie, so what? At least little Johnny is not hanging out on a street corner smoking crack.
People prefer your kids smoking crack on the corner or watching some horror movies at home where you could watch them, you know?
Downey then directed the issue back towards ratings, insisting that the horror industry regulate itself and stores stick to MPAA guidelines. I came out against ratings, but was never given a chance to explain my position. Working against our cause was the fickle audience.
First of all, I think you're full of it, okay? How dare you say that my child that's under the age of 17 can watch whatever he wants? I'm its parent to bring it up.
Their loyalty swayed like a pendulum and depended on which side allotted them the most camera time.
That little kid Charlie, he's like 8 years old, running around killing people with a knife. Yeah. I mean, if I had a kid and he saw that movie, he might grow up.
What is your kid doing watching that movie when he's a little kid?
But then again, you see a 9-year-old kid in New York City bringing a gun to school.
Right, that's the kind of things that we should be concentrating on, not wasting government money on stuff like this. You should be concentrating all your energies on stuff like that.
Who won? Neither cause, if you ask me. The show quickly degenerated into a shouting match, and no light was shed on any of the issues.
Teach your kid a sense of reality, then they can watch things without having to go out and kill people.
You should teach them a sense of reality. Teach them a sense of reality, let them walk. And teach your kid a sense of reality, let them walk on 42nd Street for 2 days.
Somehow, I managed to keep a sense of humor about the whole experience, even when Downey called me a bubble brain and used me as a scapegoat to close the night.
Watch out for this guy. He doesn't want any ratings at all by anyone. Watch out. Your kids see it around this guy. Don't let Uncle Barney here give him a bag.
And I can date your daughter.
Hey, Barney, kick ass, baby.
I consoled myself with the fact that horror movies have been and will be around a lot longer than the Morton Downey Jr. show. Well, I guess he's right.
Yeah.
I had to explain to you who he was, and even in that, I didn't watch it.
Yeah.
So, what's the real question here? Censorship in horror movies, is that even an issue anymore?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. Why? Because we smartened up and realized that our problems aren't coming from media of any kind, or because the media softened?
Both.
Both, like Forrest Gump. Both are happening at the same time.
Yeah.
So nobody can point to Hereditary and say this caused my child to get into witchcraft because the movie doesn't really sell witchcraft that well.
Right.
Really? You think so?
Yeah.
I mean, where we're at now, it's quiet horror. It's socially conscious horror. It's drab. It's a nice break from everything that's come before. It's sort of, I wouldn't say we're back to the Universal monster days, but I think everyone's trying to do The Exorcist again, trying to make it a little more cerebral. But do you think in the 80s, I mean, you don't think it was driving me? You don't think, every movie was, guy in a hat kills the other guy in a hat?
I don't think, I've never ever for a second thought that people committed vicious and heinous crimes because of movies and video games and heavy metal.
Right.
But I 100% believe, especially in the 80s and very early 90s, that people dressed a certain way and behaved a certain way because of horror movies, video games, and heavy metal. I don't think that guy's going to grow up and kill somebody.
Well, no, that's very. But we do that in every generation. We can steal trends and fashion from media, from movies and music and television, and that's its own argument. That's kind of summed up very quickly. Like, if media influences you to kill somebody, then there's something wrong with you. There's not something wrong with the media.
Right.
That's why there's only been a select few of times in history when that has happened. Otherwise, we would ban Catcher in the Rye and the White Album because they caused such a thing. So I guess to bring it back to, so it's not an issue anymore. It's not an argument anymore. It was an argument all the way. I mean, there was a fucking best Oscar winner, best documentary, Bowling for Columbine. The title derives from this very idea. If you see something, you'll do something. Even when Dark Knight Rises came out, I feel like that was the last gasp.
It was, and that was wicked swept under the
rug. It was swept under the rug, which is good. And I say that, and hear me out. I don't say that if that's good. Because the assailant had dyed red hair. One police officer claimed that the assailant looked like the Joker. That evolved into some sort of, you call it urban lore, but there's no urban legends anymore. I would say there's social media legends that he referred to himself as the Joker. And so because of that, he was influenced by Chris Nolan's movies and Heath Ledger's performance, and that movies influenced him to kill people. He was
mentally unstable.
Some psycho who had hair dye.
And a gun.
And that did not resemble the Joker in any iteration, in any way. And so I'm glad that's swept under the rug, because that was completely false. So that had absolutely nothing to do with the movie. He went to a crowded Friday night premiere of a blockbuster. It had nothing to do with Batman or his rogue gallery. He just went to a public place and shot some people up. That's the last time I've heard of the media being blamed for violence. And then for a very short period in the 2010s, they would blame the guns. First it was the guns, and then somebody, I think from the right, slipped in, no, it's not the guns, it's mental health, which really plays on the left really good, because they're like any kind of social cause. And they said, oh, you're right, mental health. Yeah, we should be looking at that. Keep your guns. Forget that problem. No, mental health is what we should be looking into. I'm sorry. So now we have the guns, and we have memes about depression. Don't forget to vote.
How come you don't wear shorts?
How come I don't wear shorts?
Yeah, ever.
I don't want to see men's legs, and so I don't want anyone else to see men's legs. And I want to add to that cause, treat others as you want to be treated. Don't forget to vote.
Oh my God, it's Trip. Morton, who's got the camera?